Welcome to another episode of Buy or Bust, the game show where we find 3 hidden gems, tell you whether or not you should buy or bust them, guess what they're going to sell for here at auction, and then find out who wins. And what are we focusing on today, Brendan?
Well, today we are looking at 3 of the coolest 80s off-roaders, and usually our facts are correct.
Yeah, sometimes they're wrong, but let's get right into it. A big thank you to Dealers Auto Auction of the Rockies for making this possible, and my choice, I think you're going to like. Brendan, this is my pick for a fantastic 1980s off-roader, the Jeep Wrangler, the first generation of the Wrangler known as the YJ.
Well, I have to ask though, Tommy, did you actually look under the hood of this thing? Because it doesn't have the 6-cylinder like most Jeeps do. This is just a little 4-cylinder. Why would you want that?
To be honest, I haven't looked under the hood, but I will say this, on these 1980s Wranglers, you're actually better off with the 4-cylinder. 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. You want to grab that hood latch there?
Sure.
I'll show it off. But what made the 4-cylinder better than the 6-cylinder on these early Wranglers was that you got fuel injection. So if you didn't get this engine, what you got instead was a 4.2 liter inline 6 with a carburetor. My friend, you're missing the best part about Wrangler ownership.
Oh, you can just lay it all the way back?
Check that out.
Oh, wow. That is nice. That actually does give you a pretty wide space to work on.
So what do you think the output is on this engine?
I'd be surprised if this is hitting the triple digits, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a 1989 Jeep Wrangler, and it's only a 4-cylinder, so maybe 90 horsepower?
120.
Okay, that's
So-
a little better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, but if you got the straight 6 of the same year, how much more power do you think you got for the extra money?
6 cylinders in the 80s still weren't doing a lot of power.
Yep.
I'd say maybe 150?
Close. You got 8 less horsepower.
8 less horsepower?
Less horsepower.
So this is more powerful than the 6-cylinder.
Yep, the 6-cylinder had more torque, but the 6-cylinder made 112 horsepower.
What were they doing?
Well, that's
What?
that's AMC
Wait,
in
did
the
you pay?
80s.
Did you pay less for the 6-cylinder?
No, you paid more.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, more torque, less horsepower. But if you want to look in here, Alex, this is why I love the 4-cylinder, because you have so much room between the front of the engine and anything in front of it. I mean, you could literally, look at this. Check this out. I can stand inside the engine bay of a 4-cylinder Wrangler.
That's impressive,
that's
I guess.
how much room there is to work on this engine.
That's
Pretty
pretty
cool,
cool,
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. Now let's talk about this Jeep, right? So this is the most hated of the Wranglers by far.
Really?
Because of the headlights, the squares.
People just don't like the square headlights?
Do you like them?
I don't mind them, actually.
Yeah?
I mean, everything in the 80s was square, so why not the headlights on this thing?
You know why they did that?
Why?
Because in the 1980s, there was some scathing 60-minute articles about CJ rollover safety.
Yeah.
And I talked to the chief designer at Jeep, and he said the reason they went with square is because square imparts a sense of stability. You can't roll a square.
So instead of making the vehicle actually more stable, they just made it look more stable?
Well, they gave it sway bars as well, which do nothing on a
Okay.
YJ. And if you come over here, Alex, a lot of this is still reminiscent of the CJs of the 70s and the 80s. And the interior, I think it's fantastic. You got these lines of gauges across the middle of the dash, which look cool. They're all functional. People hated them back in the day, but I think they look really good in 2023. Very vintage, very retro. This Jeep has the wrong flares on it. It's got TJ flares from the next gen. It also has TJ wheels. This has the sports bar, which does not have the family style. So if you're in the back and you rolled over, you're in pretty bad luck. Also don't have rear seat belts. But my favorite feature of the YJ, and I love these Jeeps, I've actually owned one, is actually in the back. Your license plate goes there, and your fuel filler
Oh, I like that.
behind the license plate.
Although it is still a little off-center, so you can't just pull up on either side. So you still have to pull up on that side of the pump. But I still think that's pretty cool.
And one of the beefiest hitches I've ever seen on a vehicle with 120 horsepower.
I don't know how much towing you're going to actually do with that little 4-cylinder.
Not much, but let's get it on the road and find out what it drives like.
Sounds good?
All right, Brendan. I love these Jeeps. They're just so retro cool.
Whoa.
This one
This
needs
is
a little
cool.
love, I think.
Yeah, it's a little on the rough side, but people do love these old Jeeps, especially here in Colorado, because you can really take this just about anywhere.
You sure can. Yeah, absolutely. 4-wheel drive, 5-speed manual transmission, at least the old school parking brake. And there really isn't much to these. Solid axle front and back, leaf springs front and back, and just a little baby 4-cylinder engine.
Yeah. I mean, this thing is not powerful, but when you're just crawling over some rugged terrain, you don't really need a ton of power, right? That's not what it's about.
How much power do you really need?
Yeah.
Exactly. They are pretty rough and ready. So if
this one's more than a little rough.
I meant more on the ride quality.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Should make sure your brakes.
Sure. There we go.
That's not supposed to be that bad.
It looks like you got some aftermarket gauges there. Holy cow, there's a lot of gauges. I didn't even see that.
Isn't that cool, dude?
Jeez.
You got temperature, you got fuel. They all work too, except for oil pressure, which is why there's an aftermarket one.
Oh,
but
that makes sense.
Let's unleash the beast.
Go on, unleash it. Are you? Oh, that is unleashed. Okay.
It has been unleashed, Brendan.
Okay.
Yeah, not a fast machine. Like if you want to buy one of these and put big tires on it, this is not a good choice. But if you just want a cheap Jeep to run around with, have some fun off-road, it's a good option.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And it actually rides a little bit softer than I thought it would.
There you go. Yeah. Nice thing said from Brendan.
Yeah.
So Brendan, have I convinced you on the YJ Wrangler? Is this a buy or a bust?
Yeah, I think I'm coming over to your side. This is a pretty cool vehicle. It's definitely got that vintage feel, and then obviously with the Jeep, you can take this thing just about anywhere. So I'd call it a buy, but what do you think it's going to actually go for?
Well, 4-cylinder hurts it, 89 hurts it, 106,000 miles helps it.
Sure.
Condition, cracked windshield, roached interior.
Yeah, and it's missing this window here on the side.
Yeah, hurts it. I'm going to say that this vehicle is going to sell for $5,200 at auction.
$5,200, huh?
Yep.
That's not bad, actually. If this was $5,200, I might consider buying it at that price. I think it's going to go for a little bit more. I think it's going to be more like $6,000.
$6,000?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the auction and see what happens. So Brendan had boots on the ground at the auction. He was there in the action. And Brendan, let's start with the Wrangler. So my prediction was $5,200.
Yep, and mine was $6,000. So this, the auctioneer started this thing off at $8,000. I think he was a bit optimistic because he kept going lower and lower and lower all the way until he hit $2,000 before somebody actually bid. And then it got a bit of action going all the way up and actually selling for $3,750.
So we were both optimistic on this one, but I was a little less optimistic, so I'm going to take the win on the Wrangler.
Yep. All right, Tommy, for my pick, I think if you're going off-roading in a Jeep, this is the one to get. This is the 1987 Jeep Comanche.
Yeah, interesting truck, right? So this is largely based on the Jeep Cherokee XJ, but with a bed and with what they call a uniframe. So it's kind of unibody, kind of body on frame. This one, though, has had extensive work done to it. What do you think of these Comanches?
I think these are probably one of my favorite looking trucks, to be honest with you. You have the front end from a Cherokee, like you said, which is a great looking SUV to begin with, but then you lop off the back and make it a truck bed. Makes for one rad looking vehicle, especially this one since it's been lifted and got some really big tires on it. You'd be hard pressed to find a better off-roader than this.
You want to pop the hood?
Yeah.
So these Cherokees came in a number of engines, or I should say these Comanches came in a number of engines. This one has a 4-liter in it. It is an 87. Now it's very common for folks to swap engines in and out of these. These 4 liters are such durable units. They last for such a long time. And you know, when they do go bad, oftentimes people will swap them in and out. You could also get these with V6 engines, 4-cylinder engines, but this is the engine you want.
Yeah, I mean, AMC and Jeep and Chrysler generally didn't build a ton of super reliable engines, but this is the one to get, honestly. With each manufacturer, it seems like there's one good engine to get, and with Jeep, this is it. This is the one I would get.
4-liter for sure. Now, one issue, Alex, if you want to kind of come down here with me, I'll actually take the camera from you so I can show what I'm talking about. Now, these came with a number of transmissions, including the legendary AX15. This one, however, though, let's crawl underneath. Do you see that little, where's the trans? Can't see it on the camera. Oh, it's above the See that line of bolts on the bottom of the transmission casing? That means that this has the VA10 transmission, which is actually a Peugeot transmission.
Peugeot?
Yeah.
Oh man, what were they thinking?
And it's made out of Swiss cheese, so really bad transmission in this truck. And then if you want to take a look in here, this is interesting. This has actually been dash swapped, so very common conversion, but a lot of folks will actually put the dash of a later Cherokee XJ in here. So you got the steering wheel airbag there, you also have a passenger side airbag here, so you can kind of modernize the look of your Comanche with a newer XJ dash, although the seat does appear to be an original older generation seat, bench seat without the headrest. And then this is what makes this one so cool, Brendan, short bed.
Yeah, and this bed is a little bit beat up, a little bit rough. I mean, it's been used as a truck, but importantly, the tailgate still works, still goes up and down. And the nice thing about buying one that's kind of beat up like this and a little bit rough, again, you can use it as a truck like it's meant to be, and you can take it off-road and not worry about getting dents or dings or scratches because you're just out there having a good time and it's already kind of beat up.
So here's a fun fact. What are the 2 hardest things to find on a Jeep Comanche?
That is a good question. I don't know. You tell me.
Taillights, because they were unique to the Comanche.
Okay.
And rear bumpers. And this one is pretty beat up, unfortunately.
It's still there, though.
It would have like a little side cap here, but yeah, tailgates and taillights and rear bumpers, the 2 hardest things.
Well, and this taillight is cracked.
Oh no. Takes the value right out of it.
Yeah. I mean, this one's a little bit on the rougher side, but I think you'd be hard pressed again to find a better off-roader.
In the Comanche.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, this thing is not great. It's got pretty much every light on that you could imagine. Is the e-brake on? There we go. Okay.
Well, if I had to guess, what happened is this thing was pre-OBD and that gauge cluster was probably post-OBD. So the gauge cluster's freaking out a little bit because none of the sensors are connected that should be connected.
That makes total sense because pretty much the check engine light is on, the airbag light is on, the low washer light is on, the low gas light is on. So pretty much every light that can be on is currently showing on the dash, but someone made sure to put a hole in the exhaust, so it sounds pretty good.
I just love these Jeeps because they're such a good compromise between capability, both off-road and also like hauling. They really hold a lot of things and they're really becoming expensive. This one I think is a little rough, so it's probably not going to go for as much as a really nice one, but we're here at the test track. Do we have brakes? Ooh, we got good brakes.
We got good brakes. Now this one does have a dead battery, so I can't stall it, otherwise we're screwed. But
okay.
Let's give it some beans and see.
Wow, the little tree fell down. Holy moly, Brendan!
Whoa! Sorry for the rough shift there, but it just wanted to take off on me.
That's a performance machine.
Yeah, I like this thing.
Yeah, this thing is cool, and it will go anywhere off-road. Oh, the little tree keeps falling right in the way of the camera.
Sorry, guys.
All right, well, let's find out if it's a buy or a bust, Brendan.
Let's do it. All right, Tommy, what do you think of the Comanche? I know you're a Wrangler dude, but wouldn't this be better off-road?
Well, it's different. It's more usable with the bed. Longer wheelbase, though, more or less. So they're both really good.
Yeah.
We'll put it to that way. Now, I think this is a buy. What about you?
Oh, this is a buy all day for sure. I mean, you got practicality with having the truck bed, off-road ability, and the durability of a 4-liter engine. What more would you want?
Now, here's a question. What do you think it's going to sell for? I'm going to guess first to keep it
Okay.
fair. I think that it's going to go for $4,800.
I think again you're a little bit low, Tommy.
Yeah?
I think I'm gonna go 5,500 on this guy. I guess we'll see who's right.
All right, Brendan, next up, that Jeep pickup went across the block. I predicted 4,800, and what did you say?
I predicted 5,500 on it. Yeah, and again, I was a bit optimistic on that one. So they opened it up asking $6,000, and they went down and down and down. Yeah, they went all the way down to $3,000 without getting any bids before they just kicked it out the door because no one bid on it. All right, Tommy, so this is my pick for a cool 80s off-roader, the 1984 Toyota Land Cruiser.
That's right, the 60 series of the Land Cruiser, one of the most iconic vehicles of all time. Is this your favorite generation of Land Cruiser?
This is the best looking as far as the generations of Land Cruisers goes. I think after this, they started to evolve slowly by getting worse and worse looking as they got. But this, I think, is peak Land Cruiser. It just does not get any better than this series.
Now, under the hood of this Land Cruiser, you'll find a carbureted straight six. How much horsepower, Brendan?
This thing has 130 horsepower coming out of its 4.2 liters. And yeah, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but keep in mind, this is the early 80s, kind of the beginning of the emissions era where things were starting to get strained and choked a little bit, and they hadn't quite figured out how to make a lot of power with a catalytic converter.
Now, this is called the 2F, this engine, and it's largely the same engine you'd find in the FJ40, which is an even older vehicle than this. But it's one of the downsides of these vehicles for modern day collectors, because the 62, right, the facelifted version of this had fuel injection, but because it's carbureted, it has a manual transmission.
Yeah, but I think that makes it cooler, honestly. It'll, at least as far as a daily driver goes, might make it a little more challenging off-road, but certainly doesn't hurt the value of it, I don't think.
Let's show them that inside. You want to open up that door?
Yeah.
Now, this has got to be one of the coolest interiors of the 1980s, especially with these seats.
Yeah, these seats, I think, are very period correct and are actually in really good shape. I do love the fact that the steering wheel has not one, not two, but 3 buttons for you to push your horn, just in case you're having trouble finding the other 2. And then it has just a very basic utilitarian squared off dash. And I do like that this one looks like has the original radio, and it even comes with a bonus CB radio.
Well, that's pretty cool, but you can see the 2 sticks there, one for the transmission, one for the transfer case, manually locking hubs, solid axles in the front and the back. These things are tough. They also rust like crazy. We'll pop open the tailgate here. I'd like to, at least.
I don't know.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Well, not every vehicle is perfect. But split tailgate if it worked,
Yeah,
and lots of
sure
room in the
but-
back for all your family's gear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty practical thing. Now, this has 218,000 miles on it. In most vehicles, that would be like runaway kind of mileage. But on an old Toyota, I don't think so. I still think this is going to fetch all the money.
You're just getting going on this thing. Gosh, I love these Land Cruisers.
Yeah, this one's pretty nice, honestly. This is probably one of the nicer ones I've said. And I know, you know, it's not perfect, but this is 1984, right?
I know, yeah. And like you said, the miles.
Look at that,
this thing started up.
This just started right up, no problem whatsoever.
Look at how smooth that engine is, too.
Gosh, with 218,000 miles, that's pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah, this thing's just awesome. Now, 4-speed manual. The big drawback on these from a day-to-day driving standpoint is they're just not super powerful. They're geared pretty low, but like 65, 70 is kind of where they're happiest on the highway, right? So not a screamer.
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, driving this thing around, this feels, honestly, I feel like I'm out on an African safari right now. Like, oh, Tommy, look over there, there's a giraffe.
Right. I know. You feel really special, these things. And rust is a big issue as well. But just fantastic vehicles. Very off-road capable too. Solid axles, durable frame, old school construction, 4-wheel drive. What else could you want?
Yeah, there's really not much else. I mean, you get a CB radio in this one. So whoever owned this thing previously had the right idea.
All right, well, we're entering the test track. Unleash the 130 horses.
Let's see. See how it does.
Oh, it accelerates.
Wow, that's slow.
Yeah, it actually more progresses than accelerates, I would say.
I thought your Jeep was slow. Man, this thing is really slow.
Yeah, not a performance machine, but it'll get you anywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's find out. Is this thing going to be a buy or a bust?
All right, Tommy. I know in the past you have been lambasted for your hate on the Land Cruisers, but I think this is the best generation, and I'm hoping you agree with me.
I do, yeah. The 100 series, as you get into the later ones, they just get a little too dull, but the 60 series, the 80 series, they're definitely my jam. This is 100% a buy.
And it would be a buy for me as well. And I'm gonna go first, and I think I'm gonna guess on this thing, even with that not working tailgate, the interior on this is super nice. And the high miles, I still think this is gonna fetch $20,000 at the auction.
So 218,000 miles. I think it's probably been repainted at least once, but I'm gonna guess a little higher. 22 grand.
22 grand.
Yep.
Well, I guess we'll see who's right.
Next up, Brendan, the 60 Series Land Cruiser, the vehicle we both fell in love with. I predicted 22, you predicted 20. What happened?
Yeah, so the asking price on it opened at $20,000, right on the nose for me. So I guess I was in tune with the seller. I was just not in tune with the bidders because it kept going down and down until it hit $17,000 and it got a bid. Then it got one additional bid at $17,250, but it went no sale, which means it wasn't even close to the reserve.
Interesting. So that didn't make the reserve that the seller had on it, but you were closer at 20,000 than I was at 22.
Yeah.
So you took that one.
Thanks. All right, Tommy. I got to hand it to you on this one. You were definitely closer on your numbers than I was.
Well, thanks, dude. It's been a really fun episode of Buy or Bust. Definitely one of my favorites. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. And Brendan, if people want to see more, what channel do they check it out on? TFL Classics, the channel we're presenting. As always, this has been Tommy.
And Brendan.
We'll see you on another episode.